I'm better than him because my kids are smart. They go to better school. Their kids don't. I think as human beings, like it probably enough to cross your mind at one point in your life that you're better than someone else based on any value you may perceive to be true. And Iblis, Da'atullah alayh, he thought the same thing. What did Iblis say? أنا خير منه خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ordered Iblis to bow to Adam alayhi salam as he was with the angels, what did he say? He said, no, I'm better than him. You have created me from fire and you created him from clay. So it's the same thing that Iblis said. So we'll start by looking at how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this value or this trait is applicable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas it cannot apply to us as His creation. This is something that there's absolutely no way that a believer should have even a ant's weight in his heart worth of kibr, worth of arrogance. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we know from the various ayahs in the Quran, He's mutakabbir, right? He's walahul kibriyat. So to Allah, that is a sign of perfection. And scholars went on to explain what this kibriyat to Allah means. It means He's above all His creations. He's the perfectionist. He does not have the shortcomings that we do. But to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-mutakabbir al-kibriya, that is one of His names, and that is applicable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whereas to us, especially Muslims and believers, no one should ever possess this disease of the heart, which is kibr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the hadith Qudsi, He said, العز إزاري والكبرياء ردائي فمن نازعني في واحد منهما عذبته. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this hadith Qudsi, He said that العز إزاري والكبرياء ردائي, that His majesty, or in Allah's case this way, His majesty of perfection is to Him only. Whereas any other creation that tries to have the same characteristics as Allah in terms of, Allah is not arrogant, obviously. As we explained, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mutakabbir, kibriya, different than what we perceive. That to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's a value of perfection. To Allah, to us, it's an aqisa, it's something that is a shortcoming. So whoever tries to have those same as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will punish him. And in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, سَأَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِيَ الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ, that I will lead away those who are arrogant from my ayahs, or those who are arrogant on earth without justification. I will push them away. I will not show them the guidance of my ayahs. Also in another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَذَلِكَ يَطْبَعُ اللَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ قَلْبِ مُتَكَبِّرٍ جَبَّارٍ. The Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will seal the heart of everyone who is arrogant and boastful. And in another ayah, again, the ayahs go on, and we try to stay within the context, as we say, of the Quran and the Hadith, as we preach in the beginning of each khutbah. إِنَّ أَصْدَقَ الْحَدِيثِ كِتَابُ اللَّهِ وَخَيْرُ الْهَدِي هَدِيُّ مُحَمَّدٍ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وسلم. So we try to stay within those boundaries, inshallah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, إِنَّهُ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُسْتَكْبِرِينَ, that Allah does not like those who are arrogant. In a hadith, so the question remains, so what is exactly arrogance, or what is kibr, and what are its levels? So the best definition or the best explanation of what kibr is what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has revealed in his hadith, that says, لا يدخل الجنة من كان في قلبه مثقال ذرة من كبر. That no one will enter Jannah for anyone who possesses even an ant's weight worth of arrogance. So this is a very dangerous hadith, my brothers and sisters. Without putting it in context, or without Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam explaining it to us, it sounds like a very dangerous hadith, because who from amongst us here at some point, or does not have, sometimes you feel arrogant for whatever reason that may be. So the Sahaba were concerned when they heard this hadith. They said, oh, Prophet of Allah, but we like to have nice clothes, we have to like nice shoes. He said, no, that's not what kibr is. This is not what arrogance is. And here's the definition of how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And if anything you want to take away from this khutbah, just remember the short words or this hadith from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. And he said, no, that's not what kibr is. Inna Allah jamilun yuhibbul jamal. Of course, Allah is beautiful and He likes beauty. الكبر بطر الحق وغمط الناس. الكبر بطر الحق وغمط الناس. So بطر الحق, it's when you don't accept the truth. Essentially, you're arrogant on the truth, even though it's been made clear to a person that this is right, this is wrong. We're not talking here about things that are questionable, you know, the mutashabihat, or the clearer signs, like, you know, you shouldn't lie. There is no one that can come and tell you, no, you should lie, and it's okay to lie, you shouldn't cheat, so on and so forth. The things that are obvious. So, but for someone to be arrogant, he doesn't accept those advices. He may not accept those. And the second part is ghamtun nas, is to belittle people, to think you're above people, you're better than people, again, as we mentioned, for whatever criteria, whatever it is in your heart that you think you're maybe better than anyone, which there is no such case, as a matter of fact. Now, what are the levels of kibr? What are the different levels of kibr? There's 3 levels. First one is with the heart, second one is with your deeds, and the third one is with your tongue. So with your heart, like I said, some of us at times may feel that urge that I'm better than such and such because X, Y, and Z. But I may not show it. Like on the outside, I may not act upon it, or I may not say that I'm better than someone. So in this case, we have the tree of arrogance planted in your heart that you have cut up its branches. You're not acting upon it. So you're struggling in the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to eradicate this radida, this feelings from your heart that you're arrogant, you're better than someone else. So that's the first level. And that's actually something good that we should strive to at least remove from our hearts. Like we're humans, we will err, we will make mistakes. But the bigger mistake is to insist or to believe that what you perceive to be true is the truth. In this case, as we established, kibr is something that is not acceptable. It is rafi'a, it is one that may prevent you from entering Jannah. The second one is with your actions. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told his beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in Quran, وَخْفِضْ جَنَاحَكَ لِمَنِ اتَّبَعَكَ مِنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. You should lower your wing, meaning be humble to those who have followed you from the believers. In another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَمْشِ فِي الْأَرْضِ مَرَحًا إِنَّكَ لَن تَخْرِقَ الْأَرْضَ وَلَن تَبْلِغَ الْجِبَالَ طُولًا. Do not walk on this earth joyful. Indeed, you will not pierce the earth, nor will you reach the height of the mountains. We're just humans, no matter how big you think of yourself. At the end of the day, إِنَّكُمْ مِنْ آدَمَ وَآدَمُ مِنْ تُرَابٍ. We're all from Adam, and Adam is from clay, from dirt. So, regardless how we perceive ourselves to be. And the last one is with your tongue. So we went to the levels. First one is with your heart. Now you push the boundaries to the second one where you start acting upon it. And the last one is with your tongue. You start speaking as if say, you know, oh, my kids are better than yours because X, Y, and Z. My wife is more pious than yours because she wears hijab, yours doesn't. And subhanAllah, when it comes to kibr, or when it comes to these things, think of them as an iceberg. On the top, like if someone is looking at as you all know, on an iceberg, the bigger portion of the iceberg is underneath the ocean. It's not visible. All you see is the top. So we may perceive someone to be quote-unquote good because he comes and does good things, whereas in reality, his bad deeds, which we can't see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows better, may be way greater than what we perceive. And the other way is true. So it could be someone on the outside, maybe, oh, look at him, he doesn't come pray in the masjid, he must be a fasiq, he must be, you know, a bad Muslim. Whereas his good deeds or his heart is closer to Allah than most of us. That we don't know, but it's not our job to judge people or to think you're better than someone else based on what you perceive. Next is the consequences of kibr, or for you to be arrogant. So there's two levels, two consequences. One in this life, one in the hereafter. So as far as this life is concerned, the first one is misguidance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we mentioned in the ayah earlier, سَأَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِيَ الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. That I will turn away those that are arrogant from my signs, those who are arrogant in this earth without justification. The other consequence of someone being arrogant or being mutakabbir is Allah will remove the bounties that He has established upon us. All of the ni'am that Allah has given you. In one of the hadiths, one of the Sahaba was sitting with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he was eating with his left hand. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, "Eat with your right hand." So he told him, "La astati', I can't," out of arrogance, not because he couldn't use his right hand to eat, but just out of arrogance, he said, "I can't do it." So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he made dua for him. He said, "And you shall not." And he could not lift his arm after that. So this is one of the miracles of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in this case, Allah took away one of the bounties that He established upon him, which is the ability to use his hands because he disobeyed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and because of his arrogance. And the other one is Allah may not accept your tawbah, your repentance, if you're arrogant. As we all know, like when we sin, it's either out of desire or it is out of arrogance. Sufyan ibn Uyayna, which is one of the tabi'een, rahmatullah alayhi, he used to say that for the sins that we commit, if it's out of desire, then I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah may forgive us for those sins, as Adam, as you all know, like when he ate from the tree, the forbidden tree, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave his sin afterwards because he did not do it out of arrogance. He just did it out of desire, so that he could have a mulkul la yafna, like a infinite kingdom, right? But when it comes to committing sins out of arrogance, then he said, I'm afraid that may lead to Allah's wrath upon us. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this case, Iblis, la'natullahi alayhi, he has disobeyed Allah out of arrogance. So in which case, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expelled him from Jannah. As for the consequences of the hereafter, which is the more difficult one, as we know, as long as there's souls in us, we still strive to be better Muslims, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ. We shall worship Allah until death. We will always be in the up and down trajectory with good and bad until inshallah we end up on the good side. So but when it comes to akhirah, your deeds are done at that point. And to summarize it, as simple as it gets, is al-jaza min jins al-amal, that the reward is the same type of the deeds. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in the Quran, وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ خَيْرًا يَرَهُ وَمَن يَعْمَلْ مِثْقَالَ ذَرَّةٍ شَرًّا يَرَهُ. That those that do an ant's weight of good shall be rewarded for their deeds, and those that do an ant's weight worth of evil shall be rewarded for their deeds, right? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrates this hadith that in the day of judgment, the arrogant people, they'll be resurrected in the shape or in the form of ants, the size of an ant, but in a human being format. They look like human beings, but in the size of an ant, out of their arrogance in this life. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will resurrect them so small in that format to show like how insignificant they are in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where the creation at that point will be stepping on them out of humiliation. Again, in the ayah that we mentioned earlier, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ عَنْ عِبَادَتِي سَيَدْخُلُونَ جَهَنَّمَ دَاخِرِينَ. That those who are arrogant or they think they're better than following my ayahs, they will be led to Jahannam forever. So one thing to keep in mind for those that think they're arrogant or they think better than other people, just think of them as sitting on a high mountain, right? A very high mountain. So if you look down, everyone to you will look small, right? But what they don't realize that those, to their perception, who are down below, when they look up, you're just as small. But the arrogant person doesn't see that. He just sees himself bigger, better, more powerful, wherever the case might be, whereas the other ones are. But it's the other way around. SubhanAllah. أقول ما تسمعون أستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. So now that we've talked about arrogance and the different levels of arrogance and the consequences of arrogance in both this life and the hereafter, the question remains is how do we remove this traits from ourselves? How do we not be arrogant? So the first thing that we should do is to try to eradicate it from your heart by looking at yourself, your true self, who we are. As we mentioned, we are all from Adam and Adam from Turab. In another ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مِنْ أَيِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقَهُ مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ خَلَقَهُ فَقَدَّرَهُ. What are we created from? From a drop of sperm. That's what we are. And at the end, we turn back into dirt. We'll be put back in dirt. So when one thinks about who he truly are, aside from what he perceives himself to be, he will realize that at the end of the day, it's not who you are. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not look at our appearances, right? It's not look how good looking you are or how much money you have or whatever the case might be. He only looks at your heart. So make sure when Allah looks in your heart, you find a clean heart who's dakar to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who's humble to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In Surah Al-Mu'mineen, as you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the stages of the creation of the human being in very, very short ayahs. SubhanAllah, at the very end he said, ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ لَمَيِّتُونَ ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ تُبْعَثُونَ. SubhanAllah, our whole life is narrated in this ayahs, in 2 or 3 ayahs, very short, 2 or 3 lines, our whole existence as a matter of fact. You created from an embryo and so on and so forth. ثُمَّ إِنَّكُمْ بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ, you will grow up, you will die, and then you will be resurrected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other one is to look at your Lord, to know your Creator. So when you truly know who your Creator is, you realize who you are as a creation. Because a lot of times we fill ourselves with liking ourselves, or as I mentioned, our perception of who we are, or in reality we're insignificant in the bigger spectrum of things. Last but not least is for someone to think that those reasons that made them believe that they're better than someone else, whether it's male or female. So for instance, if you think you're better than someone else based on your lineage, I know maybe out here in the West, we don't have this issue as much as we do maybe in the East, although some people may still have that ideology that I'm better than such and such because I'm from this family, or I'm from Ahlul Bayt, I'm from the household of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Well, guess what? So was Abu Jahl. Did it do him any good? No, it didn't. So was the uncle of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So your lineage doesn't really do you any good. As when this ayah was revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, وَأَنذِرْ عَشِيرَتَكَ الْأَقْرَبِينَ. This is the very early stages of Islam, by the way. So Allah told Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, warn your close family members or your close ties. So Prophet Muhammad came and started calling up for the different tribes in Quraysh. One by one, he said, do good, worship Allah as I cannot do anything for you. And then he kept calling one at one, and at the end, he called his daughter Fatima. And he said, oh Fatima, do good, worship Allah. Take from my money whatever you want, as I cannot do anything for you, except for Allah has prescribed for you. The other one is for someone to perceive or to think that they're good based on their strength in this world or their position. SubhanAllah, not too long ago, the whole planet was afflicted by a pandemic that have brought the whole world to its knees, right? No matter how strong we thought we are, how powerful we are, with a small microscopic virus, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought us all to our knees to make us realize who we truly are, not who we truly perceive to be. Harun al-Rashid, as you know, the great Khalifa, one time one of his servants came to him, one of his apprentices came to him, and Harun al-Rashid asked him for a cup of water. So this person here was very wise. He said, oh, yeah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, what would you give if this cup of water was prevented from you? Meaning there's no water. All there is this cup of water here. You either have it or you don't. There's nowhere else to get it. He said, I'll give half of my kingdom. So he said, what would you do if you drink it? You cannot, it does not come out. Essentially, you cannot go to the restroom. So I'll give my other half. So it's a what kind of kingdom worth one cup of water? Really, it's very deep if you think about it, contemplate upon it. Another example is for someone to think that because of their knowledge, because they're scholar, whatever you perceive yourself to be. Did you know that the first 3 that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will throw in hellfire in the day of judgment, one of them is a scholar? That scholar, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will tell the angels, go ask my servant, what did he do? Well, how did he gain his knowledge? So we'll tell him, I learned the knowledge so I can get closer to you, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and teach it to people. So Allah will tell him, Kadab, you have lied. You have learned, so people will tell you're a knowledgeable person and you're a scholar, and it has been said, now throw him in hellfire. So whatever it is that we may perceive that makes us better than anyone else, this is one of the khisal of shaitan. It's really not a believer, a Muslim, for him to think that he's better than anyone based on anything. And you name it. You can think as wild as you want as how you're better than someone else based on anything you can think of. At the end of the day, remember, to Allah, from Allah we come, and to Allah we belong. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما باركت على سيدنا إبراهيم وعلى آل سيدنا إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم إنا نسألك رضاك والجنة ونعوذ بك من سخطك والنار اللهم علمنا ما جهلنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما وعملا متقبلا اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه اللهم أرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين